Creating content online is a lot easier now thanks to artificial intelligence. But every single day there is a brand new AI tool that's popping up and it can get overwhelming. And what makes matters worse is that what is popular today won't necessarily be popular tomorrow. So in this video, I'm going to simplify everything and give you the 5 tools that I am using to create content online that should last you a while so that you won't waste money on lifetime deals and subscriptions. All right, so the first tool that we're going to be using is the GPT API, all right? So most of the tools that we're going to also talk about later in this video, so be sure to stay tuned for those, will require the use of having your own API. So what you do is basically you go to ChatGPT, you sign up to get an API code so that you can put that into whatever tool that you're going to be using. Doing it this way is much, much cheaper. You don't have to worry about paying exorbitant amounts that you might have to pay if you were just getting a tool to give you access to these things for free. So as of the recording of this video, right now, only GPT 3.5 Turbo is available basically to the general public, and there is a waiting list for GPT-4, but that's going to be lifted pretty soon. I just saw them make some tweets about how they're going to be opening it up pretty soon. So based upon when you're watching this, you'll know what is available. I will say GPT-4 is pretty vastly superior than 3.5. It doesn't require as much manipulation in terms of the inputs that you put in order to be able to get something good on the other side. GPT-4 is just smarter. So first of all, you need to go get you an API. It's free to get an API. You don't have to pay anything for it. You put in a payment source, and being able to generate text with this is going to be super duper cheap. And what I mean cheap, I mean you might be able to create a 2,000 word article for like 2 pennies, right? It's just that cheap in order to get this stuff up and running. So once you get your API, the next tool that I'm going to be using to create content is going to be Kappa.sh. Now, Kappa was owned by or created by a guy named Ian Nuttall. You can follow him on Twitter. But from there, he ended up selling it. So another company has it. I was a little bit skeptical when they first came out because I was thinking Ian was going to be running it, but it's actually pretty decent and I like it so far. I'm going to continue using it because it actually is very helpful. So when you sign up, let's go first into the pricing of how it's going to work. So down here, it's $89 per year, and then $139 per year if you wanted to do unlimited site licenses. And basically the site license just allows you to connect directly with your WordPress install and then press a button and it'll automatically send the articles to WordPress for you without you having to copy and paste it. If you're just running one website, maybe 2, this isn't really necessary. And if you are okay with just copying and pasting it into WordPress, then you can save yourself a few bucks there as well. I just got the $89.99 plan because I don't see myself needing it that often because I like to take my content and put it into another tool that we'll talk about later into this video in order to optimize it, but we'll talk about that more later. So anyway, once you have your API key and you're ready to dump it into the tool, you can put it in here and then you go ahead and you can create yourself an article. Now, a couple of things that I do like about Kappa is that it's very simple. The prompts that they use to create the content is actually pretty good. It's not going to give you super repetitive stuff. They try to put in code so that it doesn't do that kind of thing. You still will have to vet it unless you're just doing an AI test where you just want to publish the articles and not even look at them. But if you do want these articles to be good, you still need to human edit them. You need to look at them, make sure that it's not, repetitive and saying the same thing over and over again. I do notice that more with GPT 3.5 than I do with GPT-4. But whatever API you happen to get access to, you just punch it into Kappa and it's going to create the content for you. I like their little shtick here where you just press the button and then you go make a cup of coffee. And then by the time you come back, the article is done, which is true. You can do that and it works just fine. In terms of value, I'll definitely say that Kappa is a pretty good value because you're only paying about $7 or $8 a month for the prompts themselves. And that's really what you're just paying for, where you can literally just give it a keyword, press a button, and then it's going to spit out an article for you. And it's a good article. It's by no means amazing, but it is good enough to get out there and then you can do some human editing yourself. I would recommend anywhere from probably 30, 40, maybe even 50% editing to make sure that it's a nice, unique article that Google's going to end up loving for years. For ease of use, Kappa there's a couple of hurdles you have to go through when you're first getting started. But once everything is plugged in, you have the right APIs in and all of that stuff, it's pretty simple. You just go to the application itself, there's no logging in that's required. You just go here, you punch in the article, whether or not you want GPT 3.5 or 4, and then you press generate article, and like they mentioned, go grab yourself a cup of coffee. Very similar to another tool that we're going to end up talking about later in this video, but I will say that Kappa is probably one of the best values that is out there because you are using your own API, and you don't have to worry about spending as much money pretty much for anything. All right, so number 3 on this list is going to be ChatGPT in Google Sheets and Docs. Now, this is probably going to be my favorite out of all of them because of you don't have to worry about paying an additional fee or anything to get access to tools or to get access to prompts or anything like that. You just have to kind of create your own prompts, which is in many ways is going to end up creating a better article because you're going to know how to manipulate the AI better. Just save them into, a Google Sheets or Google Docs, all of your prompts and everything, so you can just copy paste them, change them for the article that you need, plop in your outline, whatever it has to be, and it works just fine. In terms of pricing, this is a free plugin. You don't have to pay a single dime for it. You install it. They have nice video tutorials to show you how to install it. It is a little bit janky. And what I mean by that is it kind of jumps around somewhere or here or there. It is getting better, but they are having to work with some of the code. It does improve over time. To be honest, now that I've used it a lot more recently, I remember it hasn't been as jumpy as it used to be in the past, which is always a good thing. What I like about this service is that, again, it's super duper cheap to create content as long as you have the right prompts. There are no prompts that they provide to you. You have to create your own prompts, which is fine. Creating prompts isn't that bad. One of the best things you can do when it comes to creating prompts, just a little aside, is as you are creating the prompts and then it creates content that you don't like, just add that little section to your prompt so that it can hopefully prevent it from happening in the future. GPT for Google Sheets and Docs works great with Excel or Google Sheets, I should say. But the main part that I use it for is definitely the Google Docs part, because you can create content within Google Sheets pretty easily. So for example, once you have a Google Sheet up like this, you just click on extensions, GPT Sheets for Docs, and then launch. You give it a second and it's going to pop up over here on the side. And there's a couple of things that I want to point out to you here. So here you have the select action where you can write a custom prompt, or if they have a couple that are already built in, but I always just write a custom one. And this is the prompt that you would normally give ChatGPT if you're using it on the website, but it's all enclosed right here within Google Docs. So let's just say, for example, I want to say, summarize the text, and then I'll just plop in like an article here, and the best way to learn golf. I'm going to highlight it like this and then click submit. And then it has some insert options here where you can tell it to insert the information after the cursor. You can tell it to put it into a tag at the end of the document, highlight it, yada, 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 whatever you want. And then here it just literally just punches it out right there for you within Google Docs, which makes it a lot easier when you're creating content right here and now. You can set behavior with it. So this right here is where you would change within the article whether or not you wanted to be a master copywriter, whether or not you wanted to be a Google expert, whether or not you wanted to be a golf expert, and tell it a little bit about the audience that you would be talking to as well, so that you can set the tone of what the actual article is going to be. Here you can choose the models that are available, whether or not it's GPT 3.5, GPT 4, or whatever. It has GPT 4 listed, but unless you actually have access to the API, it's just going to return an error. But is there available for you to use. Setting the temperature. This is how much you want, how creative you want the API to be. And I mean, it seems like a lot, but in terms of ease of use, I just wanted to show this to you just so that you can know that it does take a little bit more, of knowing what's going on and how the inner workings of this AI actually is. But it's actually not that difficult to learn. And once you learn it, you'll be able to save a ton of money because you didn't have to spend any money to do this other than the few cents that it costs to create an article. So this is probably my favorite one just because it's much easier to create content at a much cheaper price. Now, the next one on our list is going to be KoalaWriter. So KoalaWriter is super popular. I mean, a lot of people are using it, and what makes it really great is that it is made specifically for bloggers. A lot of these AI tools that are out there are just trying to be easy to use for the general person. Koala is written for people who run blogs, who run content sites, and it makes it very easy to create the content for it. Now, let's look at the pricing for it. Very cheap to get started, $9, and we'll scroll down to some of these other options that we have down here. $25 for the starter, $49 for the professional, and then $99 for the boost, and it just keeps going from there. So what I like about Koala is that the prompts that they use to create the articles are very, very good. In my opinion, it's a little better than Kappa, right? They are just, it's pretty, you press a button and it does spit out a very, very good article that you can use. It still might be a little bit repetitive depending on if you're using 3.5 or 4, GPT 3.5 or 4, but you still want to make sure that you're using the best one possible, which in my opinion, as of right now, is GPT-4. So here's the problem, and what I don't like about Koala is that as of right now, I do not believe you can add in your own API codes. So if I had my own, GPT-4 API, I could punch it in here and just use it rather than having to pay the monthly fee or pay whatever. You can't do that with Koala, which can be a good thing depending on if you have access to the GPT-4 API or not. Now, the drawback of what I don't like about Koala is the fact that all of these numbers, these prices here, 9, 25, 49, they're only for GPT 3.5. I would much rather use GPT-4 in almost all instances. But if you enable GPT-4, you can see here, that's going to count 5x towards your usage. So it ends up being quite expensive. So let's just zoom in just a tad here. If you started with the $9 plan, it says you're going to get 15,000 words, but because of that 5 limit, that 5x you're going to be using on your words, this ends up only being 3,000 GPT-4 words, right? Same thing with the 45, and then once you get to the 100,000, you're getting 100,000 quote-unquote words, but you're only getting 20,000 GPT-4 words. So for most people, the $99 plan will probably be the best option to go with, where you get 250,000 words, which ends up being like 50,000 or so GPT-4 words, which, is a little pricey, especially when you can use other tools like we just mentioned, where you can get access to the GPT-4 and literally pay pennies to get these articles created. So it really just depends on, what your budget is. I will say in terms of simplicity, KoalaWriter is probably the easiest of all of them that we've gone over so far to use. And you're paying for that ease, right? You're paying for how easy it is to create content within KoalaWriter. That said, you still will need to human edit this content. You can't just copy and paste it. There's an understanding there. You copy it, you put it into WordPress, and then you add some human elements to it so that it makes perfect sense. And within Google, they see it. They know that it's actually going to work. You don't have to worry about, getting dinged in the future, always looking over your shoulder, waiting for the next Google update to hurt your site, mainly because you know that you kind of cut a few corners when it came to the AI and content that you're putting out there. But that is the one right here. I definitely recommend it. I'll put a link down in the description. Again, it's a little pricier than the other ones, but it does kind of get things done, right? Now, out of all of them, my next favorite one would definitely have to be Frase. Frase is outstanding. They do have their own AI writer as well. However, what I normally do is create content either within Kappa or within Google Docs, and then I'll just copy that content and then throw it into Frase. I'm not throwing it directly into WordPress yet. I throw it into Frase, and then that's where I do all of my editing. They have a very good looking interface that you can just change stuff in, take stuff out, and then while you're making the edits, you can then further SEO optimize the article so that it's perfect for once you actually post it, and it has its best chance at ranking. Almost every single article that I post on the internet runs through Frase. I absolutely positively have to have it that way. In terms of pricing, they do have like a $1 5-day trial that you can use. I definitely would at least recommend at least giving it a try if you want. I'll be sure to leave a link down in the description. We are an affiliate of Frase, so we will get a kickback if you do give it a try. But regardless, the solo plan is $14.99. It's going to give you 4 optimized articles per month. That's a little low, depending on how often you're creating content. Most people are probably going to go with the 30 article plan, which is only $44 per month. And then you have the team plan, which gives you unlimited articles. I was able to get grandfathered into their unlimited plan when they were on AppSumo years ago. It's one of the best purchases, I must say, that I have ever made on AppSumo. But regardless, this one is probably one of the best tools that are out there. Very similar to a Surfer or a Market Muse or anything like that. I personally like Frase, one, because I don't have to pay for it anymore. And then most importantly, because it does create very good content that when I put it out there on Google, it ranks. It just does. So in terms of values, just because Frase does offer more in terms of SEO optimization, I know that you can do that within Koala. You can't really do that within ChatGPT, Google Sheets for Docs, or Kappa. They're going to be adding these things in the future with a lot of these tools. Plus, with Koala, you are able to have it scrape the internet and then get some, information from there, very similar to what Frase does. But in order to get it to, really look the way that Google wants it in terms of its NLP or natural language processing, you're going to want to put it through a tool like Frase to make sure that it's as optimized as possible. What I love about Frase is it just works. I've put so many articles through here and got a lot of them ranking #1 on Google, and they stay there, which is really what's awesome. What I don't like about Frase is probably it's actually kind of hard to find a negative of Frase. It is a little pricey, perhaps. I'll go ahead and give it that. But for the value that you're getting, it really is worth every penny, which is why I'm definitely an affiliate of theirs and definitely recommend that you try it out. Be sure to put a link down in the description as well. Now, it is one thing to have all of the tools that you need in order to be successful with this AI and SEO stuff. However, if you want to know my exact process that I'm going to be using, not just the tools that I'm using, but how I am using them, I want you to go check out the video right there where I break down completely my SEO and AI strategy that I'm using right here, right now in 2023.